Welcome. You are tuned into Municipal Focus, as you know. This particular program is set apart from another WHCA program called Crosstalk. The idea of Municipal Focus, we talk about things that happen in a municipality, things that happen on a town, or not so much. Well, actually, we have used the show to talk about town issues, state issues, even federal issues that need to be discussed with various guests. Today, we get an update from Whitman Town Administrator Lincoln Heineman. We had talked with him earlier this year with a promise that later on in the year we'll play a little catch up and see where things have progressed. Lincoln, welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much. Thrilled to be here. Thank you, Kevin.
How was your late spring and summer? How did things progress for you?
Sure. Well, it's I think that the word of the day is being flexible, right? I think we're all learning that. So certainly, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has been a challenge, but I think it's one that the town's been working to help address and help do what the town can as a municipality to help folks get through it. I'm continue to be very thrilled to be in Whitman. It's closing in on 10 months. It came on in early February, and we've made some. I think we've made some great progress in certain areas over the time, and we're obviously going to talk about some of the things that we're going to be working on coming up.
Yeah, and one of them would be that there's a very real possibility of a town meeting, a special town meeting at the beginning of 2022. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So it's obviously up to the Board of Selectmen, and they'll be making some decisions coming up here about whether or not that special town meeting will occur or earlier in the year. As I'm sure your viewers know, regularly, normally speaking, our annual town meeting is in May. This year, it was in June because of all the COVID challenges, but normally it's in May, and we certainly hope and intend it will, continue to be in May this coming year in 2022. The subject of the possible town meeting coming up that may happen in January, conceivably early February, depending on what the Board of Selectmen decides, is a continuing work towards moving towards a new Department of Public Works building for the town. Our Water and Sewer Department and Highway and Parks Departments are housed in the building on Essex Street that I think most of your viewers are familiar with. That building, again, I think most of your viewers probably know, is in really rough shape. It's a decades-old building in really tough shape, and I know there's certainly been previous attempts at taking a look at making that work environment better for the employees and make it work better for the town as a whole in the delivery of DPW services. But that if there is a special town meeting coming up, likely that will be the hottest topic, so to speak, on there to think about how we move forward with attempting to address the issues at that building.
What do you feel are the challenges to putting forth such a town meeting and hopefully not traveling over the same road or the same discussions that were had previously when this project was proposed?
Right. Great question. So certainly on December 7th, I believe, the Tuesday, and that's obviously I imagine will be before this airs. But there will be a joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Public Works Commissioners to talk collaboratively about what the next steps forward are in this project and what the best way. I think the members of both boards certainly share the goal of making the necessary improvements there, so that again, it's a safe and comfortable and a place to work for the employees, and that it serves the town in the work that those employees do and effectively, delivers the services. So that'll be a meeting to discuss the path forward. I know I know what my recommendation will be, and obviously it's not up to me, but my recommendation will be to either at a special town meeting coming up or at a May town meeting, to attempt to get an appropriation from town meeting to create shovel-ready documents. That is to say, documents that are ready to go out in a procurement, and then come back later at a future town meeting to attempt to get an appropriation for the construction of the building itself. I think there's value in that, if there's an appropriation from our capital stabilization fund, which we've been working on building up over the years. I just made a dedicated revenue stream, or I should say an appropriation to that capital stabilization fund this past town meeting in June. That would require a 2/3 vote at town meeting to use funds for that, for this phased approach of attempting to first get funds to get documents ready out there. And I think it would be a good gauge of whether or not town meeting does support, it would require a 2/3 vote in that scenario. And I think it would be a good gauge of whether or not town meeting does support the concept of this new building in this place and this size. And then it would allow to come back at a future town meeting with really specific architectural plans and drawings, so that town meeting, that the residents could really see exactly what it is that they would be voting on at a future town meeting and debt exclusion ballot to actually build the building.
It's worth noting, while I do not have, I'm not a Whitman resident. I have spent 17 years working in and around the community. I know that the DPW has done an amazing job, whether it's, during the summertime beautifying the town park, or when it comes to inclement weather. And we're coming into that time of year where, I drive through some communities and it's not down to the pavement. Whitman does the best job of any community to make sure that the roads are thoroughly cleared, and also the sidewalks as well. And this last note, and that is that for not only quality of space for folks to work in, but also the assets that the town has purchased for the longevity of those assets, I think that it's a must eventually to build a new building.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. Those are two great points. I mean, absolutely, as you said, the town has made some targeted investments in equipment that we need to provide those excellent services that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And in an ideal world, those assets should be indoors in the most cost-effective possible building, but so that we can maintain those capital assets that the tax dollars have paid for. But I certainly want to absolutely echo what you said. We have an incredible DPW. I'm familiar with a lot of towns on the South Shore, and as you said, they go above and beyond with very limited resources. We have a lot of sidewalks in town, and they do great work maintaining those. And to the extent that they're able to, and have the resources to do so, keep those plowed. That is a huge endeavor with sidewalks. But as you said, with the limited resources, and I want to especially give those folks a special shout out for this past October 26th storm, where the town was without power for several days. There were certainly a lot of challenges with massive trees and tree limbs across roads. And our DPW went above and beyond in getting roads cleared quickly, in having a special brush pile hours, so that people can get the brush that had fallen down in their own private property and get that disposed of for free, if they were able to, get it there in a truck or what have you. So our DPW, they really go above and beyond. And, as you said, we need a safe space for them to effectively deliver the services that they already do deliver in such a great way.
As we're talking about the town-related items, and knowing that you already have one town meeting under your belt, talk to us about the budgeting process, as something new has been introduced as of your first budget.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, so it's this is sort of a little bit of inside baseball, but I think it's really important for people to understand it in a broad sense of some of the efficiencies and that we're trying to achieve collectively, from with the town's budget. this year, for the first time, the department heads are being asked, and I really appreciate it, they've really bought into it, to, for the first time, enter their budget requests for the upcoming fiscal year 2023, beginning July 1st, this coming July 1st, to put in their budget requests in the town's accounting system. It's a system called SoftWrite. That's the system we use for all the accounting, functions of the town. And what that allows is for version control. In the past, the budgeting had been done on spreadsheets, and really, frankly, when we're talking about the complexity of a budget of and the size of a budget of a municipality like ours, it's really important to work on something probably that is more than Excel, and to work to make sure that we're all on the same page, that we have version control, that department heads in an orderly fashion can put in their requests for what they believe they need, the resources they need to deliver the services that the community needs and ask for in certain cases. And I do think it will be an effective way to also balance the budget. In other words, by having this version control, by knowing the requests, by being able to make, by having the policymakers being able to make decisions and ultimately town meeting in a constructive way and with more information about what if there's a difference in an expenditure request, what does that mean for the balance of the overall budget? Because of course the budget at the end of the day needs to be balanced.
What's the feedback that you're hearing since this introduction of this software?
Well, I think from department heads, I think it's been really positive. Again, it is a change, but I think they've been pleasantly surprised by how simple it is. Sometimes when you're thinking about using a new piece of software, you think it's going to be complex, but sure. Honestly, this one's pretty simple. And it also allows them access, and the finance committee as well, the board of selectmen, and ultimately town meeting, greater access to historical information about what actually has been spent, what has been appropriated in past years. So I think it will really help as the policymakers, as department heads, as town meeting makes comparisons and looks at where we might be able to find deficiencies so that we can invest the resources in areas where the town does want a certain level of service in a particular area.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to, I think in the past there have been issues with clearly disseminating information to stakeholders and community members as to it, and there's usually confusion. If it's something that's streamlined and everybody can basically say the same set of numbers and give the same information, I think it's an easier process.
Absolutely, 100% agree. I think it helps focus the conversation amongst the policymakers and, again, ultimately town meeting on the issue at hand rather than the process. That is to say, do we want to make this investment in this area, whether it be public safety or Department of Public Works, library, schools, whatever the case may be, rather than the process on how we get there. I do think it helps to focus on the real issue at hand.
As though the regular process isn't difficult at times, especially when it depending on what you get for money for local aid from, the Commonwealth. A new stream has entered the conversation, the American Rescue Plan Act, provided by the Biden administration. I think I said that right. Wasn't it the American Rescue Plan Act? Is that
correct? Right? Yes.
Yep. And I believe that the state level actually recently voted and had discussions about ARPA funding. Where does Whitman fall in that conversation? What are the conversations you've been having in regards to monies that your town's going to be able to access?
Absolutely, yeah, no, that's a great question. It's a complex subject, but I'll talk about the broad strokes and some of the beginning conversations about, again, amongst policymakers and about where we can make investments with those monies. So as you mentioned, there are monies at the state level, that as we speak, we'll see where that wends its way through the process. But as we speak, actually, the conference committee report, that is to say, the piece of legislation that may well and is likely to be approved by both the Senate and the House, and then go to the governor's desk, does include I know at least one specific targeted investment towards Whitman, which would be to move the World War I Memorial Arch, which is next to the fire department, which is not in a great spot in terms of it does get hit sometimes, not in an ideal spot. So there is, we're hopeful, and we certainly are really appreciative of Representative Sullivan, Allison Sullivan, and Senator Mike Brady's work in moving that towards the finish line, and hopefully getting some funds to move that to a more appropriate spot where citizens can appreciate it a little bit more, and we can make sure it's not getting hit by vehicles. So that's one really exciting thing. I'm sure there will, as it comes out, I'm sure there'll probably be other resources in the state ARPA legislation, which Whitman may well be able to access. Two other quick things is that there are also monies that the town directly is receiving. The town has received directly half of the monies, the total monies that the town expects. And approximately 25% of the total ARPA federal monies that will be flowing through Plymouth County, the county level. We actually haven't received those monies yet from Plymouth County, but they have been allocated to us. And so we're certainly, beginning that process about how can we effectively target these monies towards investments that give the most bang for the buck, so to speak, for the town. I think it's important to keep in mind, especially with the county and the town monies, that the federal legislation allows it to be spent for 3 years from now, over that time period. So at the end of the day, the federal guidance on how it is to be spent from the county and town funds is not out yet. With the broad strokes, we believe that the main area where we could probably make an investment is towards the sewer force main project, which was just approved by the voters at this past June town meeting. And that would be a really great thing if we can put some resources there. The sewer rates necessarily, the Board of Public Works Commissioners made the decision necessarily to raise the sewer rates in order to pay for that needed project, to make sure that the town sewerage is safely disposed of. And hopefully, and I think it's very likely that the vast majority of the ARPA monies will go towards that. And at the end of the day, provide a relief valve on those pressures on the rates, the sewer rates.
So it's almost like a debt exclusion. It'd be like an offset per se, where with the amount that the ratepayers are paying. Correct.
Yeah. I mean, so, I think it's, as I said, the Board of Public Works Commissioners recently made the decision that the sewer rates are going up. They needed to go up, to pay for that project. But hopefully, again, it will provide some relief on, whatever future increases may be necessary. It's the ARPA money, certainly, if they're directed in that way, would certainly provide some relief from future rate increases.
As an individual that's renowned for your finance, your financial eye, and understanding monies, what is it like to be living in a time that instead of saying, oh, we may have to cut here, we're going to have to tweak there, to where maybe things are a little bit more robust with the money, you can have a little bit more financial flexibility. Am I correct that we're starting to see those times, albeit for how long we don't know?
Well, it's a really good question. I mean, I think none of us have that crystal ball, right? But I do think that there's some targeted relief in these particular areas, like ARPA. But the funds are limited. They're certainly a huge help, but they are limited, and they can only be spent on particular areas. Right. So a lot of your viewers will be familiar with the Madden report, which came out now 2 years ago.
Yep.
That report identified that an operating override would be necessary by fiscal year 2023. I think we are on track to avoid that for a little bit longer with a combination of ARPA monies, with a combination of some budgeting techniques to find some efficiencies, to tighten some things up. And so, nevertheless, at the end of the day, this one-time revenue source, ARPA monies, won't solve the longer term, budgetary issues, right? Because the budgetary issues that were identified in the Madden report are more ongoing operating issues and not sort of the one-time capital expenses that we will be able to address in part by the ARPA money. So it's feast and famine, right? So in one case, it is absolutely a big help, but it doesn't really solve the structural underlying operating budget issues.
Knowing that ARPA is a residual of COVID, and knowing that the news is out that the Omicron variant of COVID is here in the country. As a town official, what goes through your mind when you hear news like that? Is it a matter of just wait and see, or do you have to prepare for if there's going to be any further action, whether it's mask mandates in town hall, closing town hall until, things kind of recede and we go back to normal or some new normal?
Yeah, no, I think great question. I mean, it's the flexibility, right, that we were talking about earlier. We definitely are being proactive in the town is in doing everything we can to encourage people who are eligible to be vaccinated to be vaccinated. I think that the public health officials are clear that is the most effective way at the end of the day to fight this virus. Certainly, a big part of that has been the emergency management folks and the fire department in town, really proactively and doing a great job in running vaccine clinics and also running booster clinics. There's actually there's been actually more than three booster clinics, and really targeting that also at housing authority populations, elderly populations, folks who may not be able to leave their home because of medical conditions, and making sure that some of those most vulnerable people have access, as easy as possible access to the vaccine. I think in terms of being proactive, we don't know yet as of this recording, does the Omicron, is it more transmissible? Is it more dangerous? We don't really know at this time, but we're definitely being proactive in monitoring it carefully and making sure that the vaccine is available to everyone who wants it. And monitoring it carefully. There is a strong recommendation from the Board of Health that masks be worn in indoor spaces. And, I think that's something certainly that continue to be a conversation as we fight this virus.
One of our last few hurdles in our conversation happens to be the new middle school. Any updates as to where things stand? I know that there's a committee that meets, but there's been a lot of progress that's been made.
There has. There's, as you mentioned, there's a Whitman Middle School Building Committee. Myself, Selectman Randy Lamatina, two members of the Finance Committee, John Galvin and Dave Cordero, serve on that, as does the Building Commissioner, Bob Curran, and I'm leaving other great folks off from Whitman, but we certainly have a robust, great group there. That group has been meeting. There has been a owner's project manager identified for the design and feasibility phase of a project, and what that owner's project manager will do is to identify the alternatives for that site, and that is to say, is it a renovation of the existing building? Is it a new building? Is it a renovation and addition of that building? Really lay out those options, get a clear understanding about what the costs and the drawbacks, the pros and cons of each one is. And then, that committee will have a clear role in working with that owner's project manager and identifying a preferred alternative for the school site there. So that's coming along. We're working through a contract now with that owner's project manager for the design and feasibility stage. And, we're hopeful that will get through the process and be approved by the Massachusetts School Building Authority soon.
Excellent. Final conversation, and I file this under the town administrator's miscellaneous. Anything we haven't mentioned, but maybe something might have popped in your head while we were talking, and you want to at least make sure that you share with the viewers about something that might be happening, but you want to provide information.
Sure. Great question. I think the biggest thing that we're all hoping for, and that we've really made an attempt at Town Hall, is to have as joyous as possible of a holiday season. It's been a really difficult year, difficult 2 years really, but one of the things that's being brought back this year, it'll probably occur before this, but is the very popular annual holiday concert at Town Hall in the auditorium from the Southeastern Philharmonic. Definitely making sure that Town Hall is decorated nicely for the holiday. To attempt to bring some cheer back into our lives. As I said, it's been a difficult couple of years. We may have some difficult times ahead, but I think it's important during the holiday season to remind ourselves of how much we have to be fortunate, that we should be thankful and fortunate for. So, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to at least provide somewhat of a discussion about some of the things that are going on that maybe folks are wondering where are things at. Maybe they didn't catch the latest selectmen's meeting, but you know what? If we can encapsulate it in a Cliff's Notes version of, hey, this is what's going on, I think it's great conversation. And as you and I have discussed in the past, we'll try to do these as regularly as we can as time makes itself available.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate your time doing it, Kevin. Thank you very much, and looking forward to the next one in a short time. So thank you.
You got it. And we want to thank you, the viewer at home, for tuning in. If there's any conversation you'd like to have held here, or maybe a particular guest, drop us a line. info@whca.tv is the way. And until next time, have yourself a great day.